Hey, Billy Lane here, Sturgis, South Dakota 2022. We have the beautiful Bear Butte behind us, Indian sacred ground. So we're sitting in the foothills of Bear Butte. I'm sitting here with the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Barbie the Welder.
How you guys doing?
So I've been doing bikes for 35 years and I've seen a lot of stuff. And you know, when I'm an old guy now, and when I got started, it's true. If I take the hat off and the glasses, you'll see. But when I got started, if you weren't in a magazine, you really had no way to get noticed, you know. And now with social media and the internet, it's such a different scene, and there's so many more emerging people are coming into the bike industry, and Barbie's one of them. And you know, I started following her online quite a while ago, and I met Barbie out here a few years ago. Started just at the Full Throttle Saloon. She didn't remember because when I walk up to somebody, I don't be like, "Hey, I'm the world famous Billy Lane. You know, I'm amazing." I don't introduce myself that way. I'm just a regular guy, and I just walked up and told you that I liked your work because I really do. And then I saw Barbie in Daytona, what, a year ago or this spring?
Last March.
Yeah, and you know, we started talking, and I've been following her even more closely, you know, and so now here we are at Sturgis 2022, and I just wanted to kind of introduce you to Barbie and you know, hear what she has to say and then tell you a little bit about what I think about her work. So tell me about your work. Tell us about how you got started, and I know your story's interesting, but a lot of people don't know it. So why don't you share what you care to share with us?
So about 15 years ago, I saw the movie Castaway starring Tom Hanks, and in the beginning of that, there's a 15-second clip where this woman is welding these giant angel wings. And I can't explain it other than, like, I saw it, it spoke to my soul. I knew that I needed the sculpt metal, which was just silly to think of because I couldn't draw to save my life. I still can't. I'm getting better, really bad and getting better. But I you know, never welded before, didn't feel that I was artistic in any way, shape, or form other than making box forts and pillar forts. Like, I'm really good at that, but I just saved up, went to school, went to BOCES, learned enough to pass a test, passed a welding test at a local custom fab shop, Cameron Manufacturing and Design, and they, you know, getting hired there, I learned MIG and TIG, really focused hard, you know, and heavy on MIG and TIG. Learned the art of fabrication through brilliant fabricators that blessed me with their time and their knowledge. And after 5 years of working there, I earned my journeyman in iron plate and sheet metal, and I quit my very lucrative job that I loved very much, left all my brothers, and went full-time as an artist September 1st, 2014. Just a few more days here, and I'm celebrating 8 years as a full-time artist.
Awesome. So the funny thing is, I didn't know that about you, about the Castaway thing, and I just recently was watching Castaway at home with my kids and saw that thing in the beginning, and I thought about you.
Ah, it's amazing. It is.
So I heard you telling somebody this the other day, and I was like, wow, man, like, I remember just seeing that thing and how cool those wings were. So, you know, when I was younger, I wanted to be a guitar player. And, but like a lot of things, you know, they say in life, you know, you're born into the right time for something, and I wasn't born in the right time to be a guitar player. For example, you know, now you can learn to play guitar, you know, through guitar tablature or watching things on YouTube. But when I was a kid, that wasn't available. Guitar tab wasn't out yet, and you had to either you had the gift, you could listen to it on the radio and just play it, which is how a lot of really great guitar players learn how to play, or you know, you took a lesson or read music, and which is what I tried, and I just realized that it wasn't kind of my path in life. And then when I got into mechanical things, cars, motorcycles, and then fabricating later, I realized this is my gift. It just comes so naturally to me. And is that, I mean, what happened to you, you know, I know you were trained, but once you get trained, sometimes training's important, but sometimes it's also an introduction to you, like, hey, you can do this, you know, and I'm going to show you the little things that you don't know how. Is that how it worked for you?
With fabrication, it was, I can see something, I can make it. And I was able to do that in school. My teacher saw that and just encouraged me. He says, here's a metal rack that's holding material. He says, make it. Going into the shop, I could see that. I don't know how I could see it, but I could, I could look at the fence. I could recreate the fence. Not a big deal. But was taught just how metal moves. That there's just so many, so many things in fabrication that I could see something. I could do it. I could figure it out. It's rough, but having an amazing mentors has, allowed me to just take those, take that ability and be able to really just do a lot nicer things with that.
So about what I was saying about with the guitar and everything, I really had a hard time. I was able to learn the fundamentals and the basics real quick on the guitar, but then when it came to being artistic at it, I didn't have that ability. Technically, I could do it, and I'm still that way. Like, technically, I can play guitar pretty well, but I'm not somebody who can just sit down with a guitar and create amazing music like, say, Hendrix or Jimmy Page or Clapton or the people that I grew up with, or Slash or anybody else. But when it came to metal, instantly I can see 3D. I can look at a flat piece of metal or a flat piece of bar stock or a piece of tubing, and like I look at it, I look at that metal, I go, I'm gonna bend you.
This is the best analogy I've ever heard.
I am gonna bend you to my will. And there's nothing you can do about it,
That's such a beautiful feeling, being able to take that. Like, that's where fabrication is just so special for me, is because there's no limit to what you can create. And it's just taking it and bending it to your will. It's like, I know what I want this to look like. I see it in 3D. I work like a 3D printer in my head. I can, recreate sculptures. I can turn them around. I can problem solve how things, how to do it. Like, how can I do this? How is that going to look? But yeah, that bending it to the will is just taking a hard, unyielding material.
That cool? Ultralight? Sorry.
Taking an unyielding material and putting soft curves and something that's hard, putting warm soft curves, and it's just, there's something magical about it, man. I feel like a freaking wizard.
My training, I went to engineering school, mechanical engineering school, and graduated and got a degree, and they teach you to be very technical. And so even in my shop, like, that's where my real strength is on the technical side. And the artistic side for me doesn't come quite so easy. And what I've learned is that through playing guitar, because it's a different side of your brain that does the artistic side and does the technical side. So the side of my brain that is technical fights with the other side and tries to take over. And so I've learned that through playing guitar, that has helped strengthen the weak side, so that I can add artistry into what I'm doing. Do you have something in your life that you do that is different, that say is more on the technical side, that helps you, or is you have another hobby in life that you feel like because you have it, that it helps you through your work?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think that, like, I freaking love spreadsheets. It's like a weird thing. Like, I love spreadsheets. I love numbers. I love running numbers. And when getting into fabrication, the custom fab shop, like, their QC, their quality control, like, top notch. I spent the first probably 2 years grinding my welds out. They were just awful. And it just, it wasn't their, not that they were awful, it was just new, learning, and it wasn't up to their standards. And so I'm holding high standards, and we hold tolerances. That was a thing. But like having the spreadsheets, the numbers, and you have to be perfect with the numbers. If the numbers don't lie, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think having I have an ability to do the numbers on one side, which are technical, and on the other side is that creative side. And I think it's just really, like, I hold tolerances with sculptures too, but it's more of a visual tolerance versus a numerical.
Yeah. I mean, that's first of all, having a fetish for spreadsheets is very weird.
I know, right? I like when the math works out, man. It's just so much fun.
Yeah,
like, it's just such a, it's the sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like, I freaking figured out what the formula was for that. Like, I like to find formulas.
So, I mean, it takes a lot of courage. I know, I was listening to what you said about quitting your lucrative job. It takes courage to quit a crappy job. I mean, if you think about it. But because, you know, what are you going to do? But then it takes courage to quit a lucrative job. I mean, where does that courage from? What in your background has given you that strength and that courage for you to be able to do something like it, walk away, and then bravely walk into a world that's mostly dominated by men, and say, I'm going to be a welder and a metal fabricator and an artist and a sculptor?
Oh man, it sounds stupid to say it was a calling. I can't explain when I watched that movie, how that hit me. I mean, it was like being hit by lightning. It's just like, you need to be a sculptor. Like I need to breathe. I needed that. The job was just, I love everyone that worked there, man. My boss, the people that taught me, there's such a brotherhood in there. They're just a family, and it's so special. The money was good. The money was damn good. The benefits were amazing. The medical, just all of it. It was so good. But I knew that was what I needed to do. Like, I need to breathe. Like, I needed to sculpt. Like, I need to breathe. It was scary. My mom and dad, my mom cried. My mom cried. It was just, my dad's like, you're making the biggest mistake of your life by quitting this job. They saw me for the first time in my life, really, I've worked all my life, but just, through my choices, through everything else, I wasn't making a lot of money, I was poor coming up, not that my parents weren't, but when I stepped out on my own. And so to leave a job that was so secure, I finally had for my sons. I bought the house by myself. Apparently, my garage had a house attached to it. I don't know. It showed up one day. But I knew it was what I needed to do. And yeah, it was like, it's scary because everyone was like, oh, you're making this mistake. There's a lot of people that didn't say a thing, and I could see it. Like, what are you thinking, kind of thing. But I knew I needed to do it, and so I just, stayed out of here, stayed right here, stayed in my heart, and I find for myself that when I stay out of my head, I stay in my heart, I stay with what I feel is right for me. It's led me down this amazing path. It's just incredible. It was scary as hell. I knew I had to.
So I want to give you a similar story to that involving me, and then tell you a saying that I used that I hope you repeat someday. But I was the same way. I went to engineering school. When I graduated, my father's best friend from childhood did the hiring for a company called Lockheed Martin.
They're in my hometown.
Yeah. So Lockheed Martin had a division down in the Florida Space Coast where I was living, and they were doing projects with the Space Center, with the Space Shuttle program. And so he got me hired. I went to the interview. I got hired, and I got offered a job making just under $100,000 a year in the mid-1990s. That's a lot of money. And it was through a favor, through family. Through family and friend. And I said no. And everybody looked up and said,
what is wrong with you?
Yeah. And so my saying from that is, sometimes you step on a landmine, and sometimes you step on a gold mine, right? And I didn't step on a landmine, I stepped on a gold mine. I think a lot of people are going to step on a landmine, being either overly confident or having the wrong intentions. But I was already riding motorcycles then, and I had this professor that I would go see after class, talk to all the time, and he showed me these old pictures of him riding in the 50s and 60s. And I just thought, and he, without ever saying it, discouraged me from becoming an engineer. And then I realized that the people in my classes, what they were into, and the lifestyle they wanted to live and everything just wasn't appealing to me. And I had already been riding for several years and working on bikes. And so I finished college because it was the right thing to do for me, and I'm not a quitter. And then I stepped away from it, and I stepped on a gold mine. And you could never imagine the path that I've taken, and nothing that ever happened to me in my career, which has been extraordinary, I could ever have imagined. Like even the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, and that people are going to want to watch it, or that the technology even exists to do this, I could have not foreseen this.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it really is.
It's deeply humbling. So I came up watching Biker Build Off and Junkyard Wars, Monster Garage, OCC.
Yeah.
And to think that by me following my heart, I knew it was right for me to sculpt. I knew it was, I needed to do it. Like, by me following that and how scary it was, like the opportunities that mine is underneath your heart.
Yeah.
It's when you follow your heart, that's when you find that gold mine.
Well, I'll tell you, from an outsider looking in to your life and your world, like there's a genuineness about you and about your passion for what you do and everything else, and a humility to you that, I mean, I think is really, really appealing to people. Because I know when we were doing Biker Build Off 20 years ago, like it's going to be 20, next month will be 20 years we did the first Biker Build Off, and then next year will be 20 years that we did the Biker Build Off out here with Indy and Larry, which was the best one they ever made. You know, that's a long time ago, but when we were doing that back in those days, I knew it was going to help. I didn't know.
You don't know how.
Yeah.
You don't know the trajectory of where it goes. It's like, this is going to be big.
Yeah, because, you know, they would come film us, and we didn't know, you know, we hadn't seen one, so we didn't know how it was going to look when it was done, and we didn't know how they were going to portray us, and we didn't know how to be on TV.
That's tough.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they put these shows out, and I mean, people, anywhere I would go, especially come to an event like this, people freak out, and I did. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it for a long time. And
it's hard because you're you. Yeah. You're used to being you, and you're just, this is what I'm passionate about. Same. It's mind-blowing that people want to come and like, hey, I watched your videos, you know, and man, like if that technology wasn't there, I'd be back at that company. If I didn't have a cell phone and the internet, I'd be right back at that company, happy, like still happy.
Yeah.
But not with the adventures, not with the people I've met, not with you know, who I've grown myself into, who hopefully I'm, you know, showing other people if I could do it, you can too, man. I'm no one special. I'd say I'm a girl that loves to weld, man, deeply obsessed. And love is an understatement. I'm obsessed with welding, obsessed.
So do you do, besides welding, and I know you cut and grind and do all that stuff, do you do like machine work at all, like lathe and milling machine work?
So I'm capable. So when I was working at the company, we had layoffs at one point, and they laid off someone. I was sheet metal weld, as in sheet metal weld department, hired to weld, and they actually laid someone off from the machine shop and taught me to work on a mini mill for 3 months. Well, like that was so much fun. They're like, we have a machine that's just your size. Really, people, thank you, but also thank you. It was amazing. So I know enough to get myself in trouble, but I don't know anything on it, and so it's when I move and I get a bigger shop, like that's one of the first things. Like I'm gonna get a forge. I'm gonna start playing with some blacksmithing. Yeah. I'm gonna play with molten metal a little bit more, and I'm stoked about that. Yeah. The machining is something that I really, I'm going to get into that. It's just a process of get the shop and then just start saving up for get the machines.
Well, sometime in the future, you know, I know you know I have 3 daughters that I'm enamored with. I mean, I love my daughters. I can't even describe it. But, you know, I don't know if they're going to want to do what I do when they get older. If they want to, I will lay out the red carpet for them. And if they don't, you know, I'll roll it up. But, right? Yeah. But, you know, I always love to see women in a male-dominated industry, especially mine. If you ever want to come to the shop, I'm beast on the lathe and the milling machine. I'll show you some stuff. And I, 25 years ago, bought a forge and bought a 100-year-old beast metal hammer, blacksmithing metal, like power hammer. And I wanted to do Damascus metal and stuff for motorcycles long before you saw it everywhere and everybody kind of got it.
That's my vibe.
So the stuff I have is amazing, and that's my old man gift to myself. Is as I get a little bit older and find more time, I'm gonna start doing more blacksmithing and stuff. And I've got a bunch of friends that are really good at it and have offered to teach me. So I have this stuff. So you don't have to go buy a $30,000 or $40,000 power hammer. I've got one that's that hits pretty damn hard.
The old machines, like the history in them, they're gorgeous works of art. Before you even turn them on, they're gorgeous works of art. Mind blowing to me too.
Yeah, and they're wonderful for pissing off the neighbors because mine is so loud when it hits. It shakes the foundation, and you can't even film it with the phone because the phone jumps. Yeah.
I think that's just a good video though.
Yeah.
I just think it's fun to see what it looks like, just to see the power there.
So let's talk about your connection to motorcycles.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I was the luckiest little girl in the whole wide world. When I was little, my dad put me on the gas tank of his bike at a little Honda. I think it's a Honda 650. And so I wasn't big enough to hold on behind him, so he just put me on the gas tank. And he'd take us for rides. We go actually down the road, but go down in the creek, and they had like a little dike at the end. We'd go down the dike and into the park and stuff for little rides. And then my brother, who's 2.5 years younger than me, so eventually I got big enough to hold on. So he put my brother on the tank and me in the back, and we just go roaming around a little bit, man. It's just brought up by a man on two wheels. Just some of my favorite memories of my childhood is him dumping the bike and going down the ditch with me and my brother on it. Sorry, Dad, I love you.
I take my girls riding when I come home from work. They always like, Daddy, Daddy. A lot of times Mom will have them outside waiting for me, and Daddy, Daddy, take me for a ride. And they fight for who gets to go first. And it's like one of my big joys, is taking them around the neighborhood on the bike. And my little one, she's still only 3, and we'll be in the car, all 5 of us, right? And there'll be a bike next to us, and she'll be like, Daddy, there's Daddy. I'm like, no, I'm sitting right in front of you. I just handed you a lollipop 2 seconds ago, but she sees a bike and associates me with that, So
I was 3. Yeah. I think I was about 3 when I first. Yeah, just working with my dad is one of the reasons I'm here. Is like that's what gave me the confidence. So that the daddy-daughter thing, man, just like me and my dad go on daddy-daughter dates, and it was like the greatest joy. They could not have had asked for a better, better dad.
Hey, go, Daddy.
That's it. That's good. Thank you. That's it. What do you think has been the most difficult thing you've encountered, in your career here, trying to do what you've done?
Gosh, man, probably my self-confidence. My self-confidence, it just, like, you think about it as an artist, as an entrepreneur, you put your prices where you feel like you deserve your prices to be. And if you have low self-esteem, I'll speak for myself. I had low prices for a long time. The things I've built have built me. And I didn't set out to do it. I knew I needed to sculpt metal.
Yeah.
But just through that journey, like the things that I've built have built me, and I think that right there has just been the greatest blessing. It's just like overcoming that, and I still, still work on that every day.
Yeah.
Still work on that every day. It's still like mind blowing to be, someone will come up to you and say, hey, oh my gosh, I'm watching this. It's definitely. You get it online, but seeing it in person and come out here and people, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of separation when it comes to being online. I'm like, oh, thank you so much, I love you, I'm so grateful for you. Like, you see it in person and you can see it in someone's eyes, and it shifts something in you. It's just like, holy cow.
And I learned this over the years of doing what I do, that I guess I knew it inherently in my soul because I never took that engineering job that I was offered back in 1995. But, most people go to a job because it pays the bills, and more often than not, they don't love the job, and it's just a means to an end, and then they look at someone like me or someone like you, and even though our days aren't always amazing, we have bad days too, right? Like 1 in a million days is bad, right? But even though it's not all gravy, they just look at you and think, wow, like you're living your dream and you're doing this most amazing thing. It took me a long time to kind of get that and accept it.
Yeah, it's humbling on a daily basis to look at what my life looks like. I cry a lot out of gratitude just because of this. I'm stunned, man. I got into this. I just needed to make art. I just needed to make art past that. I had no vision of anything else other than I knew I needed to make art. And the people, meeting people wanting to watch my videos. I started, teaching through YouTube and writing the books. It was just like, yeah, man. It's like people like, oh yeah, I see you do it. I quit my job and I'm really happy now. I'm just like, I just need to make art, and what's come of it. It's just like, I couldn't even, on my best day, and I've got a really great imagination. On my best day, I could never sit down and go, oh yeah, like you'd weld sculptures for Harley Davidson, and you'd have these sponsors, and you'd have this, and you'd be riding next to Billy Lane on the freaking stairs. Just, oh my gosh, just like never in a million years could I have ever, and I got a damn good imagination, and still couldn't, and this is just the tip of the iceberg for both of us.
Oh, sure.
For both of us. This is just the tip of the iceberg for what's going to, come down the road, and just, follow your heart, and just, just travel, and just follow your heart and travel well, man, and just the things you're going to have, be kind, work hard, be kind. Everything else just happens, man. Just everything else just unfolds for you. Work hard, be kind, man.
I have a friend in the motorcycle industry, and this is a long time ago now. I mean, 20, 25 years ago, but I remember seeing him, and he was newer to the industry at that time. And I walked up to him and his wife at a show in Pomona, California. I'd been watching him for a year or two, and I just walked up and I said, hey man, I said, congratulations on your success. It's so great to see. And they were like, oh, thanks, and then a couple hours later they walked over, they said, many people walk by us and they see our success and they're so jealous of it. And they're wishing us bad, and we've had so many haters, and like, you're the only person that walked up and said that. And we're friends to this day, really great friends, and it's just, you're right, like, be kind to people, and that if you spread it around, it comes back around, right?
Oh, yeah. When I was living my life before I found welding, I was very like, oh, poor me, poor me, you're this, poor me, you're a single mom, poor me, you're that. I went through that, and through my journey in welding and fabrication, I pulled myself out, and like, I didn't do it on purpose, but pulled myself out of that, and like, it became, how can I do this? How can I do that? How can I do that? And that mind shift, it shifted everything. Yeah. It literally just changed everything. And then, you start seeing, I know how hard I worked for where I am. I know damn well how hard and it's a lot easier because I know I've worked. I can look at you and go, that man must have worked 10 times as hard as I did, to do what you've done, and look at other people. I think that when you're a happy person, it's easy to be happy for other people. I think the people that aren't happy for your success are they're mad at themselves for not having to put that work in. And it's not a reflection of you, it's just a reflection of them. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard though when you have people hate on you for something. It's like, man, they're like, oh, you must have been able to do that because you're a girl. You must have been able to do that. You've got that opportunity because you're a girl. And I'm like, yeah, probably not. Hey. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up because I want to talk about that for a second. So I've been doing this 35 years, and there's very few women I've seen come into the motorcycle industry, on this side of it. I mean, I've had a lot of women work for me, and they were doing, promotional stuff, and as far as coming in and hands-on stuff in the bike industry, there's not a whole lot. And I've seen a few, and a lot of them have come in and thought, just because I'm a female or I'm cute, and there's nobody else kind of like me in that respect in the industry, I'm going to do good, and they never do good. And I've tried to help some of them, and you get near them and you realize their intentions are wrong, and I'm stepping on a landmine this time, right? Yeah. I'm loving that, man. I'm keeping that.
So, but I've seen it so much, and I've been watching you for a minute before I would ever come talk to you. I'm that way with everybody. I want to make sure that when if I get close to you, let you close to me in any way, there's a good reason for it. You know what I mean? And I think what you're doing is remarkable. I'm so happy to hear you say that it's not because you're a female, it's because you're good.
Right? And I put in the time, man. Yeah. I put in the time, and calm it down, and go to work. And that's what it is. It's putting in the hours.
Yeah.
Just because you're you doesn't mean that you're just gonna. You've got to work for what you've got. And that's, if you want an extraordinary life, you've got to have an extraordinary work ethic.
So, I was in prison for a good long time, for under my, it was my own fault to put me in prison, but I met a lot of people there, and I met some idiots, and I met some really wise people, and this guy told me one day, he'd been in for a lot longer than me, and he said, because you know when people hate on you and treat you in a negative way, it's usually either fear or envy or the ugly combination of the two, you know. And so I even get haters on YouTube, and you know, little things here and there, little comments they want to make, and I'm like, what are you, mad because I wake up at 2 in the morning and I'm at work by 3 while you're still sleeping and being lazy? Or are you mad because I've humped it for 35 years and made my way in this? You know, like, and I know there's envy, and there's probably a lot of fear too, because you don't have the courage to step out and do something like this, or you've tried and failed where I've succeeded, you know, and that's like where I get a lot of my confidence from, because I'm not cocky at all, I'm not arrogant, but I'm confident, you know, I know who I am. I mean, after all these years of doing this and, you know, living the life I've lived and been where I've been, you know, I don't really have a whole lot of fear. You know, have you ever been skydiving?
I have not, but I would like to. That's on my list of shit to do.
So let me tell you about skydiving real quick. You got to go, and here's why. When you get to the edge of that plane and you jump, you're either going to live or you're going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And once you make that choice, you know, I mean, I've made that choice more than once, not just with skydiving, but once you've made that choice, you know, it clears up a lot of other things in your life. It's really, really clear. I skydived out here with the Golden Knights one year. It was amazing. And so I recommend that you do it, because it will, if any fears you might have, it'll make you realize they're really not valid fears. So
that's such a good point, because it is. I run my business on success or death. I put myself on death ground. It's where it's the death of my reputation if I don't show up and do exactly, like I'll you know, call my shots, Babe Ruth. It's like, okay, I'm gonna come up here, I am going to weld a masterpiece sculpture in front of a crowd. You know, I've never done it before. I've welded real simple things, but I'm like, I've got, you know, 9 days to weld a sculpture for Hog, and this, you know, 4 years ago, and it's just like success or death. You nut up or shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, I love doing that, because it pushes me. And it pushes me to overdrive gear that is just not something that, you know, and I need to push myself in my shop a little bit more, because like I find like things get a little bit easy. I'm like, shit, man, I'm not really pushing myself where I could be pushing myself a little bit harder. I could put in either more hours, or I could put in more details, whatever it is. But that's success. I'm gonna weld Davy Jones. It's like, I can weld any of my little creatures that I make. No one knows what that looks like. That's in my head. Like there's no right or wrong, because it's my vision. But when you step out of the box, I'm like, I'm gonna weld Davy Jones. I'm like, this is gonna be a really, you know, if it's not right, everyone in the world knows that's not right. It's probably one of those, you know, Hemingway, Stellingen, you really, you know, if you screw up, everyone in the world knows you're a screw up. You're not, you know, you're not the level that you're saying that you are. And so I love to put myself on death ground and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And you know, I believe it's what's made my art so much better, is because I put myself in those. You know, it's the death of my reputation. Not physical death, but the death of my reputation. You know, it only takes 1 second to do something that will ruin everything I've been working for 15 years.
Right.
You know, and so having that, it's like, it's so good to put myself there, man, because it puts myself, my brain, it puts my body, it puts me into overdrive gear that's just like, okay, bitch, go to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, go to work, like, get it done.
Is there anything else you want to add that you'd like to talk about, or?
Let's talk about Sons of Speed, man. Like, let's talk about that, because that's beautiful, and that. Because seeing those bikes go around the track, that is kinetic artwork, and I love that you were showing these bikes. Like, I love seeing them in a museum. I've seen a few different bikes. I've seen them in pictures. They're stunning works of art. You're talking about before technology is what it is today, and to see that craftsmanship roll around there, I cannot thank you enough for bringing Sons to Speed, you know, to the world, for all the work that's gone behind that, to see those bikes go around the track, to see the people, you know, riding them. I feel like that's what the bikes want.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's beautiful that they get to be seen in a museum, and I love that so much. But to have them showcased in real world situation, you know, out at New Smyrna, I just could not be more grateful to see those bikes go around the track, to hear them running is just like, I can just completely not even see them and hear them running. It's just like, wow.
So, you know, Sons of Speed's vintage racing that we do twice a year in Florida. We do it in Tennessee, and we do it out here in Sturgis, South Dakota. And it's vintage motorcycles, the vintage American motorcycles from 1910 and 1950. There's a couple of reasons why I started Sons of Speed. I've always been interested in the mechanical like Indy and Larry call it the mechanicalness, which is not a word, but mechanicalness.
Oh, yes, it is.
It is now.
Oh, yes, it is. It's mechanicalness
of the early engines, and he was a big part of getting that kick started because he loved them when he saw all my motors. But I would see him in books and in magazines and then online in a static display, and I always thought, God, I just to see them go and to hear them go would be amazing. And now we've been racing him for over 5 years, and it's just like one of those passions. And one of the things I love about it is, just like you were saying, if you don't know what you're doing, you can't run or ride one of those bikes. Those bikes back in the old days, you had to be a real mechanic. You had to know what you were doing to keep a 1915 Indian or Harley running. You had to know what you were doing. There was no Walmart, no Ace Hardware, no auto parts store you could go to get what you needed. You bought gasoline at a drugstore back in those days.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and then you had to know, there was no gauge to tell you how much gas you had in your tank, and there was no cell phone to pick up.
I don't have a gauge on mine.
There's no cell phone to pick up or pay phone to go to when you had to call somebody because you were stuck.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about those antique bikes and about the racing that we're doing. If you're going to get involved in this, you're the real deal. And that is the part of the passion for me that makes it so amazing. So I know that's where I saw you, and I hope that I told you I invited you to come ride the bike and get involved in me. Sons of Speed, the way it brings people in is one at a time. Like me talking to somebody, you talking to somebody, being inspired by seeing one of the bikes. I mean, that to me is what makes that so special.
It's amazing. I'm so dang grateful. It's so dang grateful to be able to see that. That was when it was my first trip to Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
I had never been there before, and the one thing that I needed to do while I was there is I wanted to be on the pits for Sons of Speed. I wanted that pit pass so I could go in there and I needed to be around them. I wanted to be close. I wanted to be able to smell them and see them. And man, the smell of them bikes when they start up, oh man.
And I don't want to take full credit for antique bike racing because the Antique Motorcycle Club of America has been racing them at kind of like at their swap meets around the country for years. And like one of the guys that races with us is from the AMC, and he's been 45 years been racing one-track bikes. But that's a really small crowd of people. And what I've been able to do through Sons of Speed, because of what's happened with my career, is I've been able to bring it to the masses and to a younger crowd who normally wouldn't cross paths with an antique motorcycle. To them, a Panhead's an antique bike. They don't know about a Harley JD or an Indian Power Plus. So I've been able to use my success and technology to bring it to a different crowd of people. It's definitely changed the antique motorcycle scene and the people that are involved by them. Because even if you're not in antique bikes, when you see one of those bikes running and going on the track, you're like, it's like basically, that's like a pissed off bicycle. It's really all it is. It's a pissed off bicycle. So, so I'm glad you mentioned that. But anybody who wants to come to Sons of Speed, definitely check us out.
Oh, you have to see it in person.
Yeah.
Get the pit pass. Amazing.
And we got a bunch of women that ride with us. That's the other thing is when I was into the antique club side of it, and nothing against them, but it was a bunch of old white guys. And I wanted to be young people, and we don't care what color your skin is.
We need the next generation. Is what we need. We need the next generation to be involved, and otherwise it dies with us.
Yeah, and we don't care. We don't care whether you stand or sit when you pee. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. We want you.
Or do both. It's cool. Whatever's clever.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for spending the time with me. I mean, I've learned a lot about you just through this conversation. Really, truly do respect what you do. And how you carry yourself as a person, and I hope to be friends with you for a long, long time. And I think you're awesome.
You can't get rid of me. I'm Duggan like a tick.
All right.
Duggan like a tick.
Hey, Barbie the Welder.
Appreciate you, man.
Check her out.
Freaking Billy Lane. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
And I'll put a link to her YouTube page below.